Good morning. Today is Sunday, April 26th, 2020. My name is Ricardo Sandoval, and this video is for week 7 of Biology 240. In this week's video, we are talking about the kidneys and the urinary system and how they both work together. So in the video, I'm going to talk about basically the kidneys, ureters, the urinary bladder, the renal artery, the renal vein, the renal cortex, and the renal medulla on my fetal pig specimen. Now, I may have been a bit too aggressive or ambitious, if you will, in the dissection, so forgive me if all of the pieces aren't visible, but I will explain what each of the pieces does. Now, to begin with, the kidneys, there are two in most mammals, in all mammals really. They're filters. They receive blood from the body, which filters it for waste. Those waste products then go out of the body through the ureter to the bladder and then out as urine. Water and other nutrients, of course, that filter through the kidneys stays in the body and it goes to the appropriate portions to build or sustain what's needed. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to go ahead and just turn the camera angle so that you can see me pointing at the body parts. So from with that being said, I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about are the kidneys. And then on the pig here, that's a kidney there. I'm sorry, no, this is my kidney here. The kidney is located right here on the side. I've also removed one and cut it. And this is the kidney cut lengthwise. Again, the kidney cut lengthwise. So, again, the kidneys, of course, are the filters. They get blood from the body. It filters out toxins, waste, which then are formed into urine, which goes to the ureters and out the body through the urinary bladder. So the ureters, which I believe, are here. This is the ureter. So kidney kind of goes this way to the ureter. So the ureter, it's a duct or a tube. And this is basically the way that urine passes from the kidney down the ureter to the urinary bladder, which I believe is right around here on this specimen. And of course, the urinary bladder is what we have. Basically, you can think of it kind of like a hollow pouch. It fills with urine. Once it's filled to a certain amounts, our nervous system will kind of give us that pang that, hey, you have to void or pee. However, the urinary bladder is controlled by a sphincter, so kind of like a muscle that opens and closes that, for the most part, we as humans have control over. However, there are situations wherein, in people of all ages, but mostly in the elderly, that we have what's called incontinence or urinary incontinence, wherein we can lower control. We can't control the urinary bladder, and then urine just comes out. If you've ever had an accident, so to speak, or peed your pants, that was an episode of urinary incontinence. So next up, I'm going to talk about the renal artery. And then, of course, the renal artery, it's what carries blood. It has to be filtered from the heart to the kidney. So it carries dirty blood, so to speak. And I believe this is the renal artery here. So the heart, of course, was up here before I took it out. Kind of makes its way down here. This is the renal artery. Goes through the kidneys, ureter, bladder, and out that way. Once, of course, blood is filtered, what's not waste, what's nutrients, good things, does have to go back into the body. And that's the job of the renal vein, which looks to be right around in this area here. And again, the renal vein is basically its job is to return the clean filtered blood back into the system. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the pieces of the kidney that I cut lengthwise here, and we're going to focus on this one since it's a little bit bigger. So the renal cortex, so it's the most outer portion. So that's my renal cortex there. And again, it's the outer portion of the kidneys that's between the renal capsule and the renal medulla. And then the renal medulla, I mean, there's a lot of blue dye here, but the renal medulla, you can kind of see it there. Medulla. And then the renal medulla, it's the innermost part of the kidney. So the center of the kidney, if you will. And this is what contains what's known. And then with the renal pyramids, although they aren't very nicely visible, but they're, they're in there. And basically, so of course, urine has to go out. So there are tubes called the proximal and distal calyces, which go out of the renal pelvis. That's kind of like here, down through the ureter, which again is, I believe, right around here, and then into the renal bladder. All right, and then that's basically what the kidneys do, or how the kidneys work in a fetal pig. Thank you.